We'll be using oil paint, the Alla Prima technique, to start this off, and we will continue this entire thing with oil paint. This is a 8x10 oil primed linen. I believe it's lead primed. I primed these canvases a long time ago, so this is definitely a dry surface to work on. I'm using odorless mineral spirits to apply a light wash over the canvas so that I can draw with it. This is just raw umber. The palette was taken from the freezer. It's been sitting in the freezer for about 2 weeks or something like that. So some of the paints might be in between dry, especially the yellows. I don't know. We'll find out. But the reason I'm covering the surface with a light wash of umber is so we can fully utilize the Alla Prima approach to start. Now the canvas was already toned a neutral gray, so I'm toning it again with a brown so that this will eventually be the eraser brush for our drawing. If you think about Alla Prima, it's been used for centuries. It's nothing new. The most famous painter of all time in the Alla Prima technique is Bob Ross, and pretty much all of the canvases he ever started with, and he was a landscape painter, but we can extend this to portrait painting. Pretty much all of the paintings he ever did had a tone onto it, whether it was a visible tone or it was not visible, like just a liquid kind of tone. But most of the time you weren't really able to see the tone, but this is how it would react. See how the paint kind of moves around really easily? That's the effect that we want. So I want the head to be quite large because we're going to be focusing with more of a realistic painting. So let's say right to, I don't know, about there. That's going to be the my guess for where I want the bottom of the chin to go. See how with this brush I can move the paint around? It's very fluid, kind of like a charcoal, like a vine charcoal start. So this is establishing the parameters of the face. As I wrote down in the description, starting in Alla Prima is a very efficient way to work. Now let's put the dark for the hair, and then we'll start to draw a little bit in the light. It's a very efficient way to work, but it does complicate drawing because you're putting something else into the equation, which is of course paint handling. And if you're doing a landscape, then that's great because you don't have to worry too much about linear drawing, but you have to worry a lot about effect, which doesn't make landscape any easier. It's just a different beast altogether. There's more creativity involved in something like a landscape than a portrait. So it's a whole different kind of beast. It's a different ball game, but it's still difficult. It's still difficult, but in different ways. So let's go ahead and extend the value for the hair. It's gonna fit somewhere down there, and now we can start to draw within the parameters of the face. So the paint is going to be active like this for pretty much the entire session, and it will take pretty decent amount of time to fully dry, so you should be able to work on it the next day. You can work on it 24 hours up to 48 hours later, as long as you're just using regular oil paints, not the fast drying stuff. Should be pretty much fine to continue working on this. So let's go ahead and start to draw the interior shapes now a little bit. Here's the guess for the eyebrows. These are all my best guesses for where things are going to fit. and I'm going to push things around with values and colors in a little bit. So eyebrows, nose, mouth. The major thing to take out of this is the paint handling and how the different layers will work. And this is pretty much how I would draw with lines. If I were to be doing something like a watercolor, then I would start with these lines with a pencil, and then I would go in with drawing the light and shadow with much more specificity before getting into too much with color, if I were to do more of a realistic watercolor. But with oil paint, you don't have to be as specific because you'll be able to push things around, as you'll see. The reference that you're seeing on the top left, right above my head there, is a copyright-free image from, I believe it's from Pexels, but don't worry about that. It's actually not a good idea to work from a photo reference if you're learning how to oil paint. If you're just learning how to draw or paint, just forget about the reference. Focus on videos like this one. It doesn't have to be exclusively mine. There's lots of videos online now. So focus on the completed paintings as we artists simplify it for you. So now I've got an idea of where the eye socket is going to fit. This is a very structural way of drawing. Emphasis on structure. The face, like I said, is going to be quite large relative to what you're used to seeing me do. So the bottom of the chin is fine. The placement of the eyebrows is fine. This might have to move up, maybe right there. And this is pretty much okay where it is. You want to work kind of thin. You don't want to cake the paint on here too soon. You can with something like a landscape, because you can just go do 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 do, and the effects are immediate. You could do that with portrait as well, but if you're trying to have more of a classical type finish, and you'll see how we do that in the next couple videos, or in one video, however long it takes. It's actually better to work kind of thin to thick, not so much heavy with the paint, but just kind of thin and let it build that way. Hey Corhan, welcome. Hope you're doing well. And let's say this is alright for just a linear drawing. This eraser brush will now become a shadow brush. So we're going to use a little bit of black on the bottom of the palette here. And this is already dry paint, so I'm just painting right on top of something that was already there. But down here, we're going to have the darkest darks. So alizarin and black. I'm going to use a little bit of medium, which is Neo McGilp medium. Just a jelly looking thing. That's what it is. For the darks, I like to use it for the darks. Put this somewhere over here. And that's going to be our darkest areas. Okay, so now this is our dark brush, or say our dark brush. So in preparation for the lights, I'm going in with these darks and drawing as carefully as I can, but knowing it's not going to be perfect right away. And there you go. Those of you on my Patreon, this will be the start of a new cycle of videos, instructional videos. Of course, not including this because this is free on YouTube, but I'll have a new cycle of videos coming out for Studio Upari. That's what I call that tier currently on my Patreon. I've already started filming one, and start of it, that's going to be for Patreon. It's an easier approach than this. This is for more kind of like entertainment purposes, but of course you can paint along with me. Okay, so there's our darkest darks. And now we're going to use a similar brush. These are all the same type of brush. And we're going to start to put in some of the lights. Working up here. We're going to use whatever is available up top. And this is going to be our little gradation of color. So we're going to work with thin paint, not too heavy. A little bit in kind of the warm yellow type direction with a touch of blue. This is phthalo blue, so I don't need a lot of it. See, just a little bit goes a long way. So Alla Prima translates to wet on wet. So we are going to be utilizing the transparency of the paint to build our drawing and our values as we go. Starting with the nose. And you can see the paint is really thin. I'm not concerning myself with details. Now, half of her face is in shadow, so I chose a reference that is different in terms of the lighting conditions than what I usually do, just to change things up a bit. Less pressure will make the paint darker if you're working light onto dark. More pressure will make it lighter, as you can see there. Obvious example right here on the cheekbone. See that effect? So that's similar to, like, again, I'm going to keep referencing Bob Ross. Different pressure on the brush created different value transitions, especially when he was painting something like grassy areas. You would see him tapping, and then a little less pressure on the brush would create a whole different plane, especially when he would paint like a water. He would have a blue underneath, and then he would go with white, and kind of the same as this, just different pressure. These values will help me draw. This is the part of regular oil paint that differentiates itself from water mixable. Water mixable will start to get kind of tacky, a little bit gooey, which is fine, but it won't allow the open time to do something like this in your drawing phase. Alla Prima is probably the greatest technique available for oil painters that are interested in realism. And it just so happens that you can use Alla Prima and layer your paints. It doesn't have to be finished the same day you start it. See, now we have a little transition going on. The upper lip is going to move up, so that would be an excellent place to start with a color transition. So we're going to get a completely different brush and we're going to start to put some color in. Alizarin is what I choose, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be close. And this is going to help position the upper lip. Moving this up creates a really nice opportunity to start to see and think in color. But always remember the priority is, of course, the value. Now, I'm going to take this brush that has the skin tone, and we're going to add a little bit of blue, and we're going to basically flatten out the shadow shape. So this is phthalo blue. You don't need a lot of it. See how just a little bit goes a long way. Now we're going to access a different portion of the palette. This part right here, right above the shadow, or we just point at it, that. Now a little bit goes a long way with phthalo, so just a little bit at a time. And now this will be our shadow. Test out a little portion first. See, it's quite light for a shadow, so we can darken it with color. Just mix right into the colors. Try it again. That's much better. The shadow should always follow the form, like that. And that's why I like this reference, because it follows the form really nicely. It's almost like wearing a mask. Like the cast shadow is almost like a mask that's covering her face. And this is all still very thin. The whole start will be quite thin. All of what we're going to do today is going to be quite thin. So where once we had that umber, now we're using that umber just like that to push the values around. Now, just like when I said more pressure made this lighter, less pressure made it darker, because you're painting light into dark. Now we're painting blue into brown. So more pressure makes it more blue. Less pressure makes it more brown. That's the secret to Alla Prima. You have to know that each layer is going to impact the layer that you add to it. And if you can optimize what each layer does to the layer on top, then you're going to be painting much faster, much more efficient. And we can soften little edges like this, create a nice illusion of the curvature. It's all part of the drawing process that creates the curvature for the chin. Now there we can adjust the shadow shape for the nose. And you always want to be thinking ahead. So the more you specify light and shadow differentiation, the more specific your drawing will be. So in context of thinking ahead, if you can focus on the specificity of your light and shadow like that, in the first day, the first session of your painting, then the rest of the painting will fall into place much, much easier. It'll be much easier to transition into things like form, subtlety, just making the thing look realistic. Take your time with this. You don't have to fly a million miles an hour through this stage. There's a lot of beauty and elegance in painting that doesn't really go noticed too much these days. There we go. Now we add the blue up top. And we have isolated our light and shadow. Now you see how the brown led perfectly into the blue. And here, just with a dry brush, meaning obviously the brush is not dry, but I didn't add anything extra to it. See how we can soften these edges. The brown going into the blue, it doesn't affect it in a negative way at all. Hey, Raphael. Raphael asks, do you have any tips on how to think properly about temperature? It's still a little confusing to me. I always thought that shadows are warm, lights are cool, but you're doing the opposite. So it depends on the environment. So in this case, we have a light that is really warm, sunlight, and that's making the shadow look cooler in contrast. Also in daylight scenarios, it's going to look really blue in the shadows because it's reflecting the sky. You could also have a similar situation where there is a very orangey light on the model, like a halogen light, and then everything around it is going to look blue in comparison. So always look at the light in comparison to the shadow. If you have a really warm light and nothing behind, a warm light in a vacuum is going to make everything here look cool in comparison. In this case, this is a special case because this is the sky creating that blue. However, if you have a really warm light, say like a yellow light here, but you're not in a vacuum and you have a secondary light here that is a hot pink or a hot red on this side, then the shadow is actually going to be warmer than the light because there's something else in the environment that's contributing to a variation in the color scheme of things. So you want to always think about one color in relation to the other, but you also have to think about the environment. There could be something blasting a different color temperature onto the shadow than what you see in the light. So hopefully that helps. Alright, so now we've simplified that edge there. You have no problem, Raphael. Okay, so next we're going to go back to the light brush, and I think this is what we used for the lips. I believe it was, I think it was the same brush, or no, I don't know. See, now I'm confusing my brushes. This must be what we used for the shadow, whatever. As long as you try to keep one light brush and a dark brush separated, then there you go. So now I'm going to push the light even further. Still keeping the paint rather thin. And now we're going to push the color a little bit in the light. This is a cadmium. Is this cadmium? No, this is definitely not cadmium. This is, I don't quite remember what I put on here before, but I believe it's just a Winsor red. I think this is just a Winsor red. I remember when I laid out these colors, I specifically didn't put a cadmium in here to just avoid using cadmium. The white that I'm using is just titanium white. But if you have cadmium, you can use it. I'm just not putting it on here for right now. Okay, so now we're gonna go with more light and a slight color change. Still painting rather thin. Just like I mentioned before, the layer underneath should help with the layer that we're adding currently, so less pressure will make it less light. Right there. Later on we'll put more color variation, but I just added a tiny bit of red, really not noticeable. And we're carving out that cheekbone area like that. And appreciate the likes, everybody. I have taken some time away from YouTube, but if you are subscribed to my YouTube channel and you put notifications, it will alert you every time that I go live. Now we're pushing the light a little bit more, softening the edge around the mouth. All this is going to help with the drawing. More light on the chin. Less pressure here makes it less light, as you can tell. Pretty much like a charcoal drawing. This would be the chamois cloth for a charcoal drawing. And basically what we'll add to this later will be the subtleties. We're already at that stage in like less than 30 minutes. That's how efficient Alla Prima is. Okay, so now we're going to use this with the touch of blue. And we're going to hint at where the light for the eyes is going to go. A tad bit more blue is required. These are just little hints of where the eyes are going to go. Painting really thin. This will give us a good ground to start to develop the eyes. Light and shadow is what you want to focus on. Now obviously you don't want anything here to be as bright as anything down here, so this is the limit of how light this can go or at least close to the limit. Okay, so now we can start to put some planes. And this is where it's going to get a little more complicated, so I'm going to take my time explaining certain things. I'm going to go with a touch of burnt sienna, and I'm thinking about my value range. I'm looking at this plane, and I know that I want my value range to be somewhere over here. So let's go ahead and mix right into it. That's the burnt sienna. That's obviously quite dark, so I'm going to go with a yellow ochre, and this is a lemon yellow. It's a little bit lighter. You always want to test an area out first before you fully cover it, and that's about good. That's the value that I want. Less pressure will make this less orangey. And now you see how we can create a nice gradation with that. This is a perfect way, nothing's perfect, but this is a perfect, let's call it a method, to work on a big painting where there's multiple things going on in the composition, and you want to be able to complete it in a reasonable amount of time. Oil paintings are notorious for taking forever, but they're also notorious for being quick if you use Alla Prima. See how a little less pressure makes this less yellow. And now we can complete some of the curvature around the eye socket. And this is the bottom of the eye socket right underneath of the eye. This is the tear duct area. This is a concave area, so it should, in theory, look different than the stuff around. Now you see how we're building the scaffolding, so to speak. For all the details that are going to fit on here. Now a little more pressure adds more of this color. And we can just dry brush to soften the edge. And this is where we can take advantage of painting wet into wet. Let's add a tad bit more red since we're going to be painting on the nose. Notice how I'm keeping the palette organized from light to dark. Right here is going to be a tad bit more red, but we will also use this to adjust the drawing like that. The nose is a little, it's more straight. than what we had before. Now let's mix the burnt sienna back into here. There was a tiny bit of yellow. Let's add this yellow. See how that creates a really nice soft edge? And don't forget, there was a gray tone underneath of here, so it's never going to be in danger of pulling all the way into the white of the canvas. The white of the canvas is not there. And that was a little drawing correction. And let's throw in a hint of color just for fun. A little bit of alizarin and some red right here. Hint of color. Just for fun. We don't have to explore too much of that just yet. Portrait painting requires a pretty good amount of patience. It's kind of like going to the gym, but more immediate than the gym. The gym takes obviously months of pain and struggle to see results. Portrait painting takes hours to really see something truly blossom. Sometimes it can take many months to develop your skill set to just be happy with what you're doing with your painting. But once you develop these skills, you've got them. Then the challenge becomes, well, what do we paint next? When your struggle is figuring out what to paint, that's when you know you've really gotten somewhere. Hey Dayar, welcome. Do I remember you? Perhaps I do from previous streams. Yeah, sorry for my absence on the internet. It's just not gonna get involved in things, but has not been the best couple months for me. Let's just put it that way. But my aim is to continue to do these as long as I live, basically, forever, right? I'm gonna live forever. That's what I hope to do. Produce these paintings as much as I can for you on YouTube. Well, thanks for returning, Dayar. Everything is getting to be okay. Everything is not 100% for me, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'll focus more with the painting. Right now, the only thing that's kind of holding me through basically is painting. I've been doing a lot of watercolor portrait studies off camera, So if anyone here is curious about it, all you gotta do is check out my Instagram and you'll see some of my watercolor studies. I'm even working on a watercolor tutorial video. So yeah, things have been a little bit difficult, but I'm just glad to be able to have this platform. Not to make things weird or anything, but yeah. But you know, life is life. It's gonna have its ups and downs. These yellow hints in the shadow are helping me push the shadow shapes slightly and also figuring out excuse me, helping me figure out where I can adjust the drawing. So I can see that the chin needs to go that way. Yeah, life is life. I think everybody here knows what I mean. Ups and downs, basically. Back to the dark brush. I'm gonna move that over. Is this the dark brush? Who knows? It is now. So I'm trying to present you with the best technique that I know for producing consistent studio paintings, consistent paintings. Even if you are only going to a painting group. Hold on a second. On YouTube. Was it emergency?
No, I just, I'll text you.
Okay. Alright, see ya. Yeah, so even if you're just going to a painting group and you're just painting from a live model once a week, which if you are, you're quite lucky. I'm not in an area where there's any groups like that close by, but I'm trying to show you a technique that I would consider a career building technique. That's low-key my goal for today, and however long it takes to complete this painting. Oh, thanks for following the Instagram. There you'll see the watercolors I'm talking about. I like watercolor, especially in a small apartment setting. It's a lot less maintenance. Now let's add yellow underneath of the neck. And this yellow is probably reflections from the surrounding trees or mountains, whatever is in the scene here. These are live streams, unedited. As you see, I had to answer the phone just a second ago. So feel free to ask any questions. I like the live stream platform a little bit more than the pre-recorded style. The pre-recorded style I think is kind of outdated, but obviously that's how movies and stuff are made. So I will continue to do that. Just I like these live formats a little more. Now let's add a little bit more of a dark value for the hair. Not straight black, but something kind of dark, like this. And let's throw in a tad bit of red just for some color variation. Now you see how I'm sneaking color in just little by little? One way to paint thin with thick paint, I know that sounds weird, but one way to paint thin with thick paint is to move the brush around like that. It scatters the paint around. Lewis, what's your historical paint color you wish you had for the collection? Right now, lapis lazuli. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced the crap out of that, but lapis lazuli, the precious blue. Glad to see you here, Lewis. Oh, we said the same one. We said the same one. Probably because of the blue here, right? I think that's why I was thinking about it. That's pretty funny. Oops, got some paint on me. Pretty funny. Great minds think alike. So here's the deal, everybody. I've done a lot of pastels, done a lot of watercolors, acrylic, you name it. I've probably at least done one painting with it. It's my theory, let's call it, that for the everyday working studio painter or the occasional painter that wants to do something really realistic, something that has a lot of depth in it, having a solid layering approach is going to be the best way for you to get there. I've learned this, I've seen this to be true with all of the materials that I have been learning, especially watercolor. Iron oxide earth colors, the Caravaggio palette. That would be nice. Good old Caravaggio. Okay, so now for me to continue developing this painting, I've got two options. One is to add more stuff in the background and continue to push the color in the painting. The other is to go right into smaller forms with the face and develop the realism of the smaller forms before going into all of the color. Now both routes are valid. They're both fine. I'm going to add a little bit more dark here. They're both fine to do. For me, to create the most practical demonstration for you of how I would do a studio painting would be to mimic what it's like to paint from a real life model. Assuming, oh, I forgot the text. I have a side job where I walk dogs, my mother-in-law's dog. Man, just one thing after another comes, I'm telling you. Yeah, just one thing after another, you guys. This is why I'd rather do live this way, because this way we can like interact. Uh, let's just go back to this. So I have two options. Go with the background or go add more structure here. I'm going to go add more structure here because if I was working from a real life model, I would try to do the most that I can from working with the model, do the rest on my own, just to save money with modeling fees and stuff like that. So I'm going to have a light brush, a dark brush, and potentially a middle brush if I have one in my little container here. Yeah, so we'll use 3 of these size 2 filbert brushes. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with the nose once again. Go with the nose. Now here you want to be careful with your drawing. I'm going in with a dark accent for the nose. I'm going to add a tad bit of red. You want to be careful with this because if you put this type of dark in the wrong spot, it's going to be kind of obnoxious to move it around. Not impossible, but obnoxious. So this is the distance you want to look at from here to the top middle portion of the upper lip. And it just so happens that the model's mouth is open, so I can use that. See how we work one shape in relation to another to move this up. Now, if you're working from a live model, which is what we're going to pretend, I always pretend like you're working from the live model, you want to always consider the drawing by looking around the room, around the studio, so you can see what the side view looks like. The photograph doesn't let us do that, but let's just pretend that we could. Pretend that we did. More blue because the mouth is open, so we have to consider the light for the mouth. And that's going to help us raise and blur it out anytime you're starting out teeth. Blur the middle part as much as you can. Don't go all into detail with the lips. Trust me, you're going to have a really bad time if you do that too early. If you break things up too soon, the big picture will get lost. So you want to develop things very carefully. And just like we used to do in the summertime, I'm going to take a break every hour. So we're 6 minutes away from the hour. So I'll take a break in about 6 minutes time. So this is how we work on the nose, by working the surrounding shapes to the accent for the nose. So now that we've raised that a little bit, we should be in a good place to start to put the bottom planes of the nose. Now when you're working wet into wet and you start to go into small planes, you want to consider the layers underneath because they will show through. In this case, it's perfectly fine because we'll be painting light into dark like this. To create curvature. Another important thing that I didn't mention, I mention this almost every time that I can, that I remember. Don't have a lot of mineral spirits out. I have it clipped to my board down here, but I only have maybe like this much mineral spirits in a container that's this wide. So you don't want to have a lot of that out. Now we're going to paint the surrounding light. The secret to realistic painting is first understanding light and shadow, second understanding form, and finally being able to break things down into big picture, little picture. So the importance that you put in the big picture, the way we started, absolutely this the same concept to how we started the big picture, we're going to apply to the little picture, meaning all the shapes around the nose are going to become what makes the nose look like a nose. If we have just a light with no shadow, then we just have a blob of color, which doesn't help with anything. Another part of this is, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because it is kind of unfortunate, another thing that affects the result is the surface that you're painting on. I say unfortunately because it's expensive. I keep going back to Bob Ross. If you're going to spend 30 minutes on a big canvas today, that canvas is going to cost you a minimum, if you're working on thick stretchers like he did, that thick canvas is going to cost you a minimum of, say, $20 to $30. $20 to $30. You can tell me that you're going to spend 30 minutes on a canvas that costs you $30, so you're paying basically like $1 per hour to paint on a canvas, and it doesn't add up. But a smaller one like this, which is an 8x10, and you spend 8 hours on it, say, something like that, and you really you go to town on it and you produce something that you're proud to show as a portrait artist, it's a tad bit more practical. The saving grace for painting quick with that kind of landscape approach is going to be watercolor. The paper is not as expensive as the canvas, even if you're buying arches. And the paints, you really don't go through a lot of paints that fast with watercolor. And that's a perfect material for quick painting. And I think even back in the day, Mr. John Singer Sargent probably preferred it, maybe because of how fast it is. There's a little bit of blue for the cast shadow here, a tad bit more blue than I had before. So what I'm trying to tell you is that things are getting more expensive as time goes by. That's just part of life. Art materials are going to get more expensive. Oil painting is probably the most expensive of the things you can do. So it just so happens that this kind of painting will save you a tad bit more money in terms of how much time you spend on your paintings, and the fulfillment that you'll get from a more realistic painting like this one is a little more fulfillment, at least for me personally, than to do something quick like what I was doing over the summer. Really quick paintings. I would probably be done with this painting in the next hour or 2 hours, the same day. That's what I was doing over the summer. And I just don't want to do that because I'm going to end up spending a lot of money on canvases like this, and I won't be as happy with the end result of the paintings as I would be if I just take my time with it. But as I say this, some of you probably have no worries about how much the materials cost. You're probably not worried about money. You're probably worried about, well, how do I actually do the thing? And that's fine too. Oh, I didn't even notice. We're already 3 minutes past 1 hour. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break. Gonna stretch a little bit. Check my messages. I don't want to do that. I kind of wish I didn't have a phone. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take a break. And those of you that are familiar with how the streams were in the summer, it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to have a video playing during the break, so don't worry, it's not just going to be nothing. There's going to be something playing for you. I'll be back in a couple minutes. I'll see you real soon. Don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to. I'll be right back. Alrighty then, let's return to this painting. Anyone that is watching live, let me know if the audio and the visuals, everything is working out okay. So we're gonna work on the planes around the mouth. Looking at this edge relative to this one. This comes out a little further to the left, so it's okay. Relative to the eye, it is alright. This needs to go in just a tad bit. Yeah, probably to about there. And this is where this whole business slows down. Thanks to AR, thank you. I'm glad the equipment is working. Now we're going to develop the nose and the mouth area until it is emerging out of the canvas. Then we'll move around towards the eyes. Now I'm establishing somewhat close to the lightest light, but it's still not the brightest light just yet. The bottom of the wing of the nose to the left will be a little bit more blue. This gets darker. Pretty much right in this value range. And that same accent, value-wise, exists right underneath of the mouth. So remember, you work on the nose by working on the stuff around it too. So the light for the lower lip is going to help gauge the values around the nose. We added a touch of green for this plane. And just like I said before, when we started putting that in, this is going to be our gauge for what the transitions of the planes are going to look like. I think we said your nickname is Gigi. So, hey, Gigi. No worries, you're not late. I'll be here for another, I don't know, hour or maybe 2 hours. I'll be here for a while, so don't worry. Like I said a while ago, I'll be in and out with these streams, but I won't disappear. Trying not to disappear. I'm glad to have you back, Gigi. And this is going to be almost like an airbrush effect. Remember, as this is Alla Prima, we're using the layer underneath. Now, this is going to be our gauge for how light we're going to go, and we're going to have some work to do for the surrounding planes. A touch of yellow with the red will give us an orange. The trick is not to make it too orangey. We're going to use a lot of paint to mix on the palette, but then we're going to apply it sparingly onto the canvas to have a thinner layer. Like something like that. Now drawing wise, I see that either the eyes are going to end up going higher up, which is probably going to be the case, or the shadow is going to drop. Probably the latter. I think the shadow is going to drop closer to the nose. Tad bit more yellow with the red for an orangey touch. Now we'll go back to the shadow. We can use a bigger brush. We're going to move that shadow down. Now this is a peculiar spot to mix. I'd say right here, because it's a very blue tone. Phthalo blue, just a touch of it. Let me double check. So it'll go probably here. Now you can use a very careful layering method, and you can glaze this shadow on. You can paint the face as it is. As a watercolor, you can do that actually. Paint the face without the shadow and just glaze this on. That's another way to do it. But I chose to go at it this way. Thanks, Gigi. Yeah, spontaneity is kind of a thing with me. Of course, there'll be some warmer tones here later in the shadow, but that should be good for now. It's a very complicated light setup. Hey, Mark L. Must be a lot earlier for you over there. Light on the nose is going to be a tad bit cooler for the bulb of the nose. Again, see how we're sneaking in color. So mix a big portion on the palette, and then just sprinkle the color on. "7 p.m. in London, so a little earlier than usual. Well, I guess we're only about an hour earlier than I used to stream. And now there's going to be some light on the surrounding, on the opposite side of the nose. So we got to be careful with how we develop that. I'm going to go back to that burnt sienna. And I know I've been pushing between warm and cool with this one. But just focus on the layering. Just think about what you want to be established in the beginning so that the later stages are going to be easier for you. Here's where it will get tricky. First drawing again, I see that this is not correct. I may have used more paint than I needed to, so I'm going to spread the paint down. And there's some blue on the bottom there. Looks like the Me camera froze on my playback. So if the Me camera is still frozen on your end, my bad. As long as the main camera is not frozen. Now in the past, I used to use a fan brush to bring down the texture of the paint, but I'm not going to use one for that area for now. Okay, so a little drawing thing fixed. Now I can, this helps me see more drawing stuff that I can work on, such as that being pushed inwards slightly. Oh good, I'm glad that the Me camera is working again. Just dry brush to soften that edge. So that is fine. And this is the beauty of oil paint. I can go back and forth with light and dark, and I don't have to worry about the paint lifting off like it would with watercolor. you'll see those mistakes that I did in the watercolor video that I'm currently working on. It kind of looks something like this. But in this case, see this? I can just move paint right into it. Paint opaque. Like this. And all of a sudden that edge is fine. Weird. That would not be possible with watercolor. Now going back to the nose, the area I was working on, I was adding a touch more red there. Now I'll go in with some light. "4 hours ahead in Ireland." Oh, rugby, I've never played that. It seems kind of aggressive. Aggressive game. So same as before, Alla Prima approach. More pressure makes this lighter. Less pressure makes it darker. And that's the plane right underneath of the nose. Your danger zone is right here. You don't want this to get as light as that. This should not get as light as that. We're okay. Sometimes they'll get close. But always be careful. Make sure your darkest light doesn't get as dark as your lightest dark. But they're going to get close. And if you lose light and shadow, it's okay. You can get it back. Now, oil paint is extremely accommodating to mistakes. Other materials like watercolor are not as accommodating, especially if you start to accidentally subtract paint. Then, not a good day. Not a good day. But I still really enjoy watercolor for that reason. It's a challenge. But oil paint, you can just breathe. You can relax. It's not going to lift on you. It reflected. Oh man, I fixed that last time. If anybody remembers that from the last stream. Yeah, I've been having some trouble with the technology, but let me fix that. Okay, it wasn't that one. This is the problem with open broadcast software, if you've ever used it. Also known as OBS. Okay, so this looks like it's my right hand, right? Is that my right hand? Yeah, that's my right hand. Apologize for that. Back to the burnt sienna. Thanks for catching that, Gigi. That should get darker closer to the cheekbone, just like it does there, but with a tad bit more red. Pretty close. Have a good night, Dayar. Thanks for joining. I look forward to seeing you in other live streams. Okay, so drawing wise, everything is working okay. So just the tapping motion gives me a little more control. And we're building the light up from the dark, which makes it a lot easier to create form, because form relies on light and dark. Specifically, it relies on the darkness receding. Hey Zisu, why don't I demo famous painters like Anna? I don't know those two names. Yeah, I'll take a picture with my phone so I can look the names up. I typically try to only do, say, like paintings of other paintings if they're over 100 years old to avoid copyright. Interestingly enough, the last somewhat viral type video I've ever done was not a portrait. It was a landscape. A landscape, the one where I painted a Loch Ness monster. Go figure. It wasn't even a portrait. GG would like to see you see me better. Source larger. Oh, that's because I'm zoomed into the face. So this is a square. So it's taking up almost a square. So it's taking up more of the screen than me, than this one, than that camera. That's why you can't really see me. Plus, I don't have a secondary light source coming in from this direction. But I will take that into account. Thanks for not being afraid of my my face. My face can be the stuff of nightmares. This little back and forth thing that I'm doing is really useful for, let's just say, holding back, not doing too much too soon on your painting, so that you save energy for the rest of the painting. Like I said, if you break things up too soon, the big picture tends to get lost. So sticking with this little zone here is perfectly manageable, as opposed to going all around to develop the face. Like I said earlier, I had two options. I could have developed the big colors, or focus on the small forms. And because I consider myself to be more of someone that paints as if I'm painting from life, of paying the model hourly, I'm going to focus here. And if I have to make the stuff up around, I will. But I'm going to focus here. I want you to think about these things. Imagine you are a professional painter and you're paying your models hourly to pose for you. And you need to get paintings ready for the galleries. Or you're doing a portrait commission, and say you're painting a senator or a CEO of some huge, friendly, non-invasive company. Then if you get to paint them from life, which I hope you would, you have to be very good at attacking the important stuff on the face. Everything else can be done either by imagination, by photo reference, but everything else is secondary to the main stuff over here. Tad bit more yellow, but I gotta be careful with the yellow. More pressure makes this lighter. Now you see the form starting to come to life. Less pressure makes things less light, which is perfect for those little gradations. Add a bit more blue, which actually makes this more green. For the philtrum. More pink. Ignore the light for the teeth. The lower lip is a little bit brighter in comparison now. It should be brighter in comparison. This is not cadmium red. This is Windsor red, which is more transparent. You can use cadmiums if you want to, but I took them off my palette. And I don't have any lead on the palette either. This is just titanium white. Same story, less pressure makes things less red, which creates a transition effortlessly, or seemingly effortlessly. Try to avoid cleaning the brush with mineral spirits as much as you can. I'm just using these 3 brushes for the most part. Only use the mineral spirits when you have to. I only really needed it for the toning of the surface in the beginning, and that was it. Oh, I'm glad you liked that one I was talking about with Loch Ness Monster. Oh, no, that was a different one. The drone. Oh, back when there was drones everywhere. Oh, I'm glad you it reminded you of a sergeant. That's awesome. Now this light is going to surround the dark around the mouth. And let's use the sable brush just to curve this in like that. So the drawing was the architecture, and now the form that we're developing is the engineering. The color is more or less the interior design if we're relating this to a building. I am not in any way an architect, an engineer, or an interior designer. It's just what I think um, they would be. Obviously, you're not going to start a building with the interior design, or you could plan it that way, I think, but just an analogy. So we're surrounding a little pouch of dark here, so imperceptible that you can't see it right away. And that's the important thing about realism, is that there's a lot of imperceptible forms and value transitions, such as that should be less obvious. It will be less obvious later. Or maybe we'll just do that now. Just a tapping motion. Now it's going to get slightly darker as it curves in. We're about 3 minutes away from the next break. You see how much control we have. This is the power of Alla Prima to start a realistic painting. Hey, Janice. We'll throw in a touch of the yellow. And I know it's going to be time for the next break soon, but let's throw this in before I forget. And there's going to be more of that for this cast shadow. Which of course we will adjust the drawing now. There's a tad bit more of the side of the face showing. Tiny bit more. Less pressure makes this less bright, and it'll make it softer, which is what we want. And now after the second hour, the form is really starting to read around the nose area. And the beauty of that grayish tone that we had underneath is pushing all of those warm colors through. Okay, so that's the second hour. Now we are gonna go ahead and take a break. But before I do, like I said before, I've been practicing my watercolors. So on Instagram, you'll see some posts of my watercolor studies. This is one that I did not too long ago, just like last week, of my Shiba Inu Hugo. So that one is on Instagram. So if you haven't seen that, definitely check it out if you can. So I'm going to go ahead and take another break. Don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to, and I'll be right back really soon. I'll play the video for you during the break. Alrighty then, we are back. Now let's move to the eyes, and I think this should be about the final hour or something like that. And we'll continue this painting later. So like I said, we're trying to create something a little bit more realistic than I was doing over the summer. So we're going to focus with the placement of the tear ducts. This is going to be more red. It's going to be a little bit of alizarin, slightly lighter than our darkest accent. And like I said, we may end up having to move the eyes up, but not really. I think they're fine. If anything, maybe this one will go up slightly, not much. The tear ducts are the anatomical landmarks for the placement of the eyes relative to the skull, and basically relative to everything in the surrounding. Can be as easy as connecting 2 points to one another, like that. So the intersection between 2 points is a line. A line in empty space is nothing but a line relative to a rectangle. A line within a rectangle gives us an angle. So that's about it. That's the angle that we want. Pretty close. Now we can go with the darker dark. Makes up quite a lot of paint, but then apply it thin. You never want it to just be a line, so because this is wet on wet, I get to apply less pressure, which will make this less dark. What you do to one side, you want to do to the other. You want to have a soft touch so nothing dries too sharp. I'll use the same method for the crease for the upper eyelid. And with the same value, just kind of with a tapping motion, I can spread the paint across the bottom of the eyelid to make that area darker. It's a question I will ask everybody here, whoever's watching this live. What is currently on your easel? Or, if nothing's on your easel, what would you like to paint next? What's on your list to paint next? Took that a little far. Oh, Mark L, self-portrait. I need to do another one of those. Though I want to do one in watercolor. That would be kind of fun. Self-portrait is always good. Gigi, working on a portrait of your daughter and daughter-in-law. That's true. YouTube doesn't have a thing where we can post it here. Exciting stuff. Painting the portraits of people you know is always a very difficult but exciting thing. Hey Tommy, welcome. Marky said Saturday be attempting another life painting. Awesome, and a different model in the afternoon. If only I could fly over to London to paint with you. don't let the psychology of adding eyes, more emphasis on the eyes, distract you from the big picture. So there's always something more to do with the big picture. So now that we have some shapes for the eyes, I'm going to fight the tendency to want to add more detail here. Just like I said with the nose, you work on the developing the nose by painting the stuff around the nose. So I see now that this is a little bit tall. So I'm going to drop the forehead a little bit. And I always extend an invitation, if anybody that's watching this is in the Northern Virginia area, let me know if you want to get together and paint sometime or anything like that. I'm in Alexandria, Virginia, though I'm in a different part of Alexandria than I was last year. Sadly, all the painting groups I used to go to in the past are all in Maryland. And yes, I know about the Torpedo Factory and the Art Students League of Alexandria, but those are all classes, not really a setup where you can paint a live model with a group and split the model fee like you can in Maryland. And I know there's a place called Workhouse that's around here, but it doesn't have long poses over weeks at a time. It just has one long pose every blue moon. So that's not an option. And the hat's gonna have to drop to about, I want to say there. Just about there. I know, right? I wish I was in Philly. So welcome, Celeste. Been painting for many years. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you're right. I used to be in Philly. I studied at a place called Studio Incominati in Philadelphia. It was off of, back then it was by North Callow Hill Street. You would take Broadway Street to get there from where I was staying. This is one of the nice things about oil paint. This is just paper towel, and I can easily just push that over, and that's as easy as it gets. There's going to be a tendency to want to put more emphasis in this, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save the energy for the environment for a different time. Always remember, you got more time than you think you have. Unless you're working with a live model and there's a timer on you, then you know exactly how much time you have. Let's see, graduated from Tyler School of Art in '83. Yeah, I think Incominati was founded in, I forgot what year. I'm not sure if it was in '83. I think Slotty. Great observation. Actually, I didn't mention that as much as I should. When I say that I'm painting soft, when I say that I'm painting thinner, I'm actually also painting a little bit softer around the edges. That's in preparation for more form later on. So I'm going to end up adding more form on the face as time goes on. But in order for me to get to that level, at least for me, I have to be able to build the structure underneath. And, that kind of stuff takes time. So, Sid, what process of blending do you employ to blend two lines of different colors? Something like a tiling method. You can actually see it on my palette. The way that I move from one, say like this, move from one surface to another. It's kind of like a tiling method. See how I created a tile there? So basically like a tiling method where I mix one value in comparison to the other and I let the planes optically mix before trying to kind of like I was doing over here, just dry brushing it. So Celeste, I was lucky to go to an atelier, right? They are very, very helpful. No, I didn't post it to Facebook Live. I think there's a way to split my stream so that I can post it to Facebook Live. I haven't quite figured that one out yet. Or I can stream on both. You're right. YouTube is unfortunately not as big as it used to be. Facebook is making a huge comeback, from what I've heard. So I mixed that little tile, and then for the blending part, I do let the light mix with the dark. So this is a little bit lighter, and I'm letting it mix with that kind of bluish dark. Well, this is a string going from light to dark, and then tiling is just separating one plane next to another, like putting a tile of one color next to another. Oh yeah, Facebook, right? Yeah. I, personally these days I'm not on Facebook as much as I used to be. Doom scrolling, I guess. Now what I do at night, because it's hard for me to sleep at night sometimes, or every night, I just kind of play Nintendo Switch, and that helps me go to sleep. That way I kind of avoid the internet per se. But yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Feedback about oil paintings. Well, in particular, oil paintings are the most. I don't want to say it in a negative way, but they're the most cliche that will come up when you search portrait painting. Oil painting is almost always the first. Then it's acrylic. And then if you're lucky, then it's watercolor. But it's for a reason. It's the most durable type of painting that you can create, known to us thus far, oil painting. It's the most forgiving It also takes the longest to dry. And unfortunately, I don't know why this is, but they tend to be more expensive to buy. Anything titled original oil painting tends to be more expensive to buy than the other ones, but go figure. I guess that's the market. Oh yeah, Facebook, I guess, necessary evil. I get that. And basically, my entire YouTube career was built on oil paintings. So I can definitely vouch for the ease, I guess, of oil painting. It's also the most it's the most maintenance requiring material because you gotta clean the brushes. It's not like a watercolor where you can just leave the brushes uh, in a tub of water. With oil paint, yes, you can leave the brushes in linseed oil, but it's not as good for the brushes. So yeah, there's a little bit more labor involved in oil paint. Oh, you mean your painting? Well, yeah, I've got that uh, available on my on the Patreon, the Studio Yupari. I've got students that I've had for years, since like 2019 ish. Shout out to Randy if you're here. Uh, he's been with me consistently the longest. Um, so I definitely got Randy that can always vouch for me. But always willing to, bring in new people on my Patreon. It's linked in the description box. It's not too expensive. It's only $10 a month. You definitely pay more for a gym membership these days. You'll definitely pay more for eggs for sure. Or maybe you'll pay exactly $10. Yeah, I'm on Instagram. All you gotta do is just look up my name, Yupari Artist, and I'll show up on Instagram. I think my Instagram name is Yupari Fine Art. I know, right? I shouldn't have to say I think. Um, but yeah, it should be Yupari Fine Art. I know, I started it before I started YouTube. I started Instagram before YouTube, and I tried to change it to Yupari Artist once, but it was too difficult. Oh, thanks, Celeste. I know Patreon can be a little weird to log in and stuff at times. Look, it happens to me more than I would care to admit. You know how many times I've forgotten my password to something and have been locked out because I tried to enter the wrong password too many times? So if it happens to you, don't worry. Uh, Trust me, it's happened to me many times. Um, or just trouble logging into things. It happens to me more than I care to admit, and I'm only 33, so it could happen to anyone. So using this to soften some edges, this will become more blue. Let's just add the blue now. Yeah, Celeste, the sign up place. You click on the link for the Patreon, and then if you don't have an account on Patreon, you have to create one. On Patreon, you also discover a lot of other artists too that do the same kind of stuff, maybe in different ways. But it's a good platform. To be honest, that platform's actually doing better for me than YouTube is, and it used to be the exact opposite back in the day. Like 3 months ago, it used to be the exact opposite, but yeah, that's not necessarily a good thing for me. Sid, yeah, you can message me on Instagram. Of course, the Patreon's easier to communicate through, but yeah, that's fine. And I appreciate you having an interest in my feedback. Okay, so we'll use the paper towel to push this back up because we don't want to start incorporating anything from the background just yet. Once you put something, even a color, even a brush stroke for the background there, it gives off a different feeling. It truly feels like now I need to put more stuff for the background just so the picture looks right, as opposed to holding off and then having a whole different session where you do that. So it's good to hold off for this more realistic type stuff that we're doing. YouTube is feeding your Patreon. Yep, it is. Though, yeah, I mean, not to get too involved in what's going on, but yeah, it is a struggle to maintain, just, let's just say, life as an artist, but it's self-inflicted. It's my own fault for not being here as much as I should. I played too much pool. I'm gonna have to stop playing a lot of pool these days, mainly for many reasons. I won't get too much into it, but yeah. But this is my saving grace, basically. Like, in life, every time, like I said before, life just happens, but this has always been there for me, and I want it to be there for you. And just being able to show you and to speak with you, it does a lot for me, and I hope it does a lot for you as well. I'm adding more yellow up here, which will push, as you already see it doing, it's pushing these blues. So I don't want to add too much, but just enough. Oh yeah, definitely. Once we could just add a brush stroke of light here, We can add one brush stroke here, here, and here, and it'll make everything pop. But I'm not gonna do that because it's important to know when to hold back on certain things like that. Holding back on that is key because when we return, it's a big deal for realistic paintings to know how to hold back, know when to hold back. So that when you return with a fresh eye on the next sitting, you'll just be that much stronger with the stuff that you're going to be doing. So purposefully holding back. Hey, Jonas. Bewilderment. Life gives beauty and bewilderment. Oh, very philosophical. Very philosophical. You know, certain things like the dark value back there, I want to let that have my full attention, and this area on the palette is perfectly fine for that. More pressure makes it darker. Less pressure makes it lighter. The tone underneath is a middle gray, so there's no worry of accidentally subtracting back to the white of the canvas. So Jonas, you wrote, when you paint a portrait, do you follow a certain way? Like if you paint left eye, do you then go to the right one or to another part instead? It depends on the scenario. Like with this one, I started with the nose because it was sandwiched perfectly in between the light and the shadow. The nose is sandwiched perfectly between the light and the shadow, so I went with the nose first. But if this was just a typical portrait where the light is the same kind of thing, there's a strong shadow here, light here, then the right eye, I usually start with the right eye. Maybe it's because it's closer to my right hand and I'm lazy, but I've noticed I typically start with the right eye than the left. It's just the way that I work. Oh, only messages. That I didn't know about Instagram. But fear not, I won't disappear forever. I will be here. As circumstances have it these days, I'm going to spend a lot of time at home. And I'll have a Zoom on Patreon just to talk to people. Like, I'm kind of at a point where I feel like I need to talk to people. So we'll talk on Patreon. I know a lot of you are on the Patreon, so we can talk more about it. But I'll be here. So dark, just a little tap for the dark transition here. I don't want to do too much too soon. Perhaps dominant eye focus. Yeah, Lottie, that's a good explanation for it. Let's see. Gigi wrote, would enjoy watching you doodle on the napkin. Oh, thank you. These days I do doodle a lot, but in watercolor. A lot. I mean, almost every night I'm doing a watercolor. Almost every night I am doodling with watercolor. Yep, drawing is definitely an accurate foundation for the painting. Well, thanks, Sid. It's nice to have you here. Thank you for your kind words. It means a lot to me. It really does. Now there's going to be not a lot, but a tiny bit of light here. And this is actually going to break away from the form slightly because it's light shining through from the hat. So the light shining through from the hat is going to be kind of a big deal. That's true. Yep, the dominant eye effect. Yep. Back when I played a lot of pool, it's kind of weird saying that now, but back when I played a lot of pool, yeah, the dominant eye and the center of vision was a big deal. A huge deal. Sid Q, unfortunately, I don't know a lot about Russian academies. You mean except the Repin Academy? Unfortunately, these days I don't know a lot about what's currently going on with the art world. I should, but I fear any advice I would give you on that would be not the best advice I could give you because I don't know enough about that topic, about the Russian academies. I don't know, unfortunately. So I apologize, I don't know. So a lot of you wrote, have you also recognized that passion, desire to catch reality through your own self give a boost to make a movement, dancing energy? Oh yeah, there's definitely like a rhythm to painting, especially when you're standing and moving back and forth and painting a live model. But that act of like standing back and forth does put a rhythm kind of to your step. Oh, definitely. I have noticed that. But when you're sitting and painting, not so much. Kind of, but not that much. Next live stream doodling with watercolor, that is a possibility. Though I'm a little bit ashamed of my watercolor right now because I'm changing things up. So I've got a kind of an important phone call, a potential portrait client, so I'm going to have to just mute this for a second. And yeah, I do have a potential commission, kind of a potential big commission coming up, but more about that much later. I probably won't even talk about it on Patreon. I mean, on YouTube. Just forget I said that. Forget I said that. I'll mention it on Patreon, but not on YouTube. I'm gonna keep that away from YouTube. But yeah, I'm back. That was like a super important call I had to take. But yeah, about watercolor. I'm a little ashamed of it because I'm changing certain things. like I incorporated a drawing again. I took it out. Now I brought it back. Um, I did do a pre-recorded video which will come out probably on Saturday. But live, it's in the works. I do really enjoy experimenting with it, I will say. I do. No problem, Sid. Apologize for the lack of knowledge there with the Russian academies. Oh, thanks, Lottie. Again, light shining through the straw hat. I think it's a straw hat. I shall title this Straw Hat Luffy. Whoever gets that reference later, you are very, very, very much a anime fan. Oh, thanks, GG. The process and progress. Yeah, with this, I'm showing you the strongest technique that I have based on years and years of experience with oil paint. This is the strongest approach that I have in my toolkit of painting skills. Thanks, GG. I appreciate the kind words. I do appreciate it. Gotta be really careful with these lights. And again, this could have been done by glazing, but I chose to go at it this way. Again, this is the way that I would approach a commission painting, and yes, I will be doing more commission paintings. It's very efficient, though it's not the easiest way to start. But every layer is built upon the previous layer, wet on wet. Continuing this painting later, there may be some parts that will be in between dry, and that's okay. That'll actually give more control on the brush. But everything is very thin, really light. By light, I mean a light touch. Oh, GG, you know Monkey D. Luffy. True anime fan. Now, I'm not going to go wild with those little reflective patterns. Just like I'm not going to go wild with the teeth. Those are little details for later. We're 3 minutes away from the 3-hour mark, which is precisely when my wife gets off of work. So that's about the maximum I can do on the internet. I'll be doing some late night studio painting, early morning studio painting, and then perhaps a lot more of these streams that you're seeing right now. Purpose being to skill build. This is like going to the gym. It's like weightlifting, like going as many reps as you can, as safe as you can, to build muscle. In this case, it's muscle memory with the hands. Being able to apply a light touch like this doesn't come naturally for me. And also skill building, muscle building mentally. Just being able to purposefully hold back certain things. Oh yeah, thanks Lottie, yeah. My wife Lucy is definitely my number one fan for sure, as I am her number one fan. Though I gotta make sure I'm done with work in time to spend time with her. Then when she goes to bed, I'm painting again. Then when I wake up, painting again. Then afternoon, painting again. These streams, of course. Pretty much everything I do is just painting, except for I have a side job of dog walking. Looks like Lucy Liu from Charlie's Angels. That's a good one. Oh, I missed a comment. Yeah, a lot of you wrote, I was drawn to the shepherd's doggy's white. You like soft pastels. Yes, soft pastels are Yeah, pastels are a whole different kind of thing. Oh, thanks, Celeste. I try. Now you see we're starting to push form in the shadow very carefully. This cannot get as light as this. So remember, this is our little gauge to see when too far is too far. Purposefully holding back on the background and all those things. Blue shadow under the hat. Oh, thanks. I was actually gonna add more of that on the nose. Definitely pushing the colors surrounding the blue will help with the blue. And I will emphasize once again the importance of the materials. This is a linen canvas that's glued onto a panel. I bought it that way, and then I toned it with a lead white primer. Though you don't have to use lead white, and I won't really use it much in the future. So just a oil primer would be fine, or just paint over it with oil paint, and then let it dry. It helps to have a smoother surface. Or just work on a wooden panel. That'll solve most of the problems with the texture. But basically you want a smooth surface. Let's see. Oh, thanks, Celeste. Was that a comment? Holding back is tough. It is tough. There's so much that we want to do. We want to do it all right away. And, the art of realism is knowing that what you don't show is just as important as what you show. Being very selective about what you add. Seeing the big picture before getting hung up on the details. And I desperately need to skill build. I need to paint 10 times better that I'm currently painting. That's how tough the art world is these days. Especially to do portrait paintings. If you want to get commissions for portrait paintings, it is all about being able to hold back on certain things. And that also kind of relates to life too, being able to hold back. One thing we'll never hold back from is painting. That's just one thing we just can't give up. We can give everything else up in the world, but not painting. So a lot of you wrote in the beginning shows a stranger lady. Current, it is family on the right distance. Huh? Oh, I may have missed something there. Though I see something poetic could be showing up there. Now imagine earlier, had we put more stuff in the background, it would have been kind of difficult to isolate the face. We're seeing things in sequence here. And thanks for all the likes, everyone. Yeah, trust me, I've got many years of oil painting, and I gotta tell you, this approach is the most efficient way to create studio paintings in a reasonable amount of time to be able to have a professional art career, which is not easy to do, very hard, but you know, if you love it, it is worth it. Oh, putting an indication of the side of the hat. Ah, yeah, that was with the paper towel. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm creating a sample of what a potential portrait client would receive once this is completed, of course, what the portrait painting would look like. It's that important. And when something is that important, you tend to put a little more effort into it. Oh, the hat. Yeah, that's all gonna be next time with this painting for sure. But it's good that you're noticing those things. Yeah, this will eventually be more straight. I'm glad you're noticing those things. Appreciate it. That's my proof. Alright. It's 5 o'clock now, my time. That means Lucy just got off work. Unless she got off early. Which means she's going to be on her way here soon. This was a very fun start for this painting. Much more stuff left to do. But it was fun to be able to just isolate the face. Again, this is an 8x10, but you're zoomed in. So you don't really see the bottom, some of the bottom or the top of the painting, because the priority is here. The brushes are going to go in the linseed oil container. I'm going to have to add more linseed oil to it, but that's just because I can't really clean the brushes in the sink. I don't have an art sink. So it just kind of stays in the linseed oil. And the palette's going to go in the freezer. And we will continue this painting at a different time. So that's going to be my cue to say thank you for watching. It's going to be my cue to say thank you for watching. Those of you that have stayed this long and have asked me for my Venmo, in case anybody ever wants to donate anything to me, there is my QR code. Because it's a huge distraction to the scene here, I didn't want to have it there the whole time, but in case anybody wants to donate anything to my Venmo, there it is. That is my Venmo QR code. You just scan it and it shows you where my Venmo is. The Patreon is linked in the description box of this video. Oh, thanks, Gigi. Oh, thanks, Lottie. And thank you for all the likes, everybody. We made it to 37. That's a lot of likes. Thank you so much. Thanks, Janice. So thanks, everybody. Like I said before, don't have too much mineral spirits out, so you can barely see how much is in this container. So that way you can keep the air quality and everything pretty safe. Yeah, again, this is going to go in the freezer, so this is as low maintenance as oil painting can be. So once again, thank you all so much. I wish you the very best in all of your artwork, and I'll see you next time.